I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast. Hey, welcome back to the Team Chip Podcast. I'm actually beyond excited today because I have a very special lady here with me that is going to share some golden nuggets that'll be life-changing. I'm pretty sure about it. No pressure, though. No pressure. I have Dr. Laurie Patel, and I say doctor because she is a physician, and we can talk about that a little bit in the podcast, but I also want to honor her in that. But Miss Laurie, you're a sweet lady. Super excited to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So today, first, I'm just going to kind of talk to you a little bit about how we connected originally. So we've known each other for quite a long time now. Tell me a little bit about that. At one time, you were my mom's physician, and then your kids came to our martial arts school and trained, and then you trained and actually earned your black belt, and you still kind of train with us as you come in at 5:30 in the mornings.
Yeah, it's been a long go, hasn't it? I mean, we didn't really know each other when I was your mom's doctor. I didn't have that connection there. And shortly after that, what I used to call my co-mom, the lady that was helping me take care of the kids said, I've heard some really good things about this place called Team Chip. Do you want to try it? And my first response was, I don't know. It's going to make the kids really aggressive. I don't know if I want to do that. Yes. But we started my oldest son in martial arts and my youngest son, and eventually my daughter came into it well, and they stayed through their high school years, and all of them got black belts. And then after a dare on the behalf of my daughter who said, Mom, you can't do this. And I said, I bet I can. And $5 later, there I was.
That's awesome.
So I stayed with it. I got my black belt, and then kind of things changed for me joint wise. So I shifted over into the Team Chip fitness program, which I've been in ever since. So I've been part of Team Chip since the early 2000s.
Since the early 2000s. It's been a while. It's been that long,
yes,
has it?
It has.
Ooh. Well, I'm actually kind of brokenhearted, I have to tell you, because I thought you started because you came and you brought the kids and you were just like so wowed by how awesome it was that you just couldn't not be out there. I didn't realize it was a $5 bet.
It was a bet. Because one day I was telling my daughter that she was doing something wrong, which you should never do from the sideline. And she said, well, Mom, you couldn't do this. And I said, I bet I can. And that's kind of where it...
That's the best. Well, for those of you out there that don't know Miss Laurie, she's a killer martial artist and was a phenom on the mat. So we were honored to have you there, but still trains. So we have a fitness class. She comes in 5:30 in the mornings, most every morning, Monday through Friday, and lifts weights, cardio, conditioning, all kinds of stuff with Glenn and another group of ladies. And I'm usually in there doing my own thing, but on some of the days anyway. So it's good. So we've been connected. You said early 2000s. Do you remember about? I'm just curious now.
I think Roger would have probably about 2002.
2002.
I'm thinking because I think maybe 2004, something in there.
That's 22 to 24 years.
Right.
Wow, that's impressive. You deserve an award for hanging around with us for that long.
Thank you. I'll take it.
That's amazing. All right, so your kids got on the mat. Did you enjoy your mat time while you were on the mat? You did?
I loved it.
You loved it?
It's so far out of my box.
Right.
And so it was so much fun. Just the leveling of it, I really liked.
Love it.
I love that time.
One of the things I talk to people about is it's martial arts is kind of the great leveler, right? Equalizer, for lack of better words. And on the mat, you can walk into a martial arts class, and I love the fact that it's uniform and structured. So, everyone's in uniforms, but you might have a physician, a business owner, and the kid that works at McDonald's down the street serving fries. It's just, and everybody comes together, right? And it kind of takes the levels out. I remember Andy Stabner. You remember Dr. Stabner?
Yes.
Yeah, Andy earned his black belt with us. His sons did as well, and super good guy. I love him to death. And I remember one time him saying, I love coming here, and part of the reason is I can just kind of turn my brain off and follow orders and train to better myself. And I thought, that's interesting. I would have never thought of that early on, as a martial arts instructor, because I was actually telling this story a couple of days ago. Do you remember Dr. Horton, Dean Horton?
Yes.
Okay. Dean Horton, when I first took over the school, Glenn Ann and I did, I was 23. he had trained there whenever I was a kid. So he had trained some. I think he got to maybe like his green blue belt in Taekwondo. And one day I got a phone call from him. And he said, hey, this is, Dean Horton. I was like, hey, Doc. We called him Doc. And he said, I heard through the grapevine that you've taken over the school. Is that true? And I said, I have. And he said, I'm pumped. He said, I've been dying for this day. I was like blown away. He said, can I come train? And I said, oh gosh, of course. Anyway, long story short, he's on the mat. And one day I said something to him and he said, yes, sir. And I whispered in his ear and I said, hey, you don't have to call me sir, because he was a retired Navy captain. He was a dentist. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I need to call him sir. He doesn't have to call me sir, right? So anyway, with that said, he said, we need to talk after class. He took me in the office and we sat down and he said, Chip, he said, if you ever came to learn about dentistry or a ship, right? I was a Navy captain. He said, you would be the student and I would be the leader there. He said, but I came to you to learn from you because this is your house. You're the expert. And this is a great lesson for me. And he said, I'm going to call you sir. You're the doctor here.
Right.
And I said, oh, it was a big, and I don't think it affected my ego. It might have, but it was a great learning experience. And I kind of had a realization, okay, this is my domain and this is my area. So anyway, I say that because you were talking about the great equalizer. People come in and everybody's just a person out there doing their thing for the most part, right?
Right.
We respect rank and each other tremendously. But anyway, just kind of fun. I digress, but I'm excited to have you here. So what you guys out there may not know, Laurie transitioned from being a physician to being a public school teacher, right?
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about that real quick. What made you decide to make that transition?
Okay. The transition is not a 2-step transition. It's a 3-step.
A 3-step. Okay.
So I had been practicing for several years here in Abilene. I did family practice. And we have everything all worked out. Kids were I knew where they were, and we had somebody hired to come in and help us with things. And but from time to time, I'd need to bring things home and work on them, and things got kind of escalated.
Right.
And at this point, the kids had already started martial arts.
Right.
We were doing great with that. And one day, my daughter, who was also in your program, said to me in an innocent voice, she didn't mean to be a smart aleck about it. Sure. That came later.
Right.
But she said, Mom, why are you in such a bad mood all the time?
Right.
And I thought, that is a legit question.
Wow.
And so it made me do some hard thinking. And a few months later, I gave up my practice. Wow. So it wasn't that I quit being a doctor and started being a teacher.
Right.
I just gave up the practice.
Right.
And this happens to me a lot, where I have something that meant a lot to me that I just stopped doing. And then I sit there and think, well, this sucks. I don't like this.
Right.
So I need to do something. And so I quite honestly saw a news on the news one night. They were talking about how there was such a shortage of teachers and how you could get your certification in a year and a half and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh, that sounds fun.
That's awesome.
And so a couple of years later, I joined that program and then started teaching after that. So it was that kind of evolved out of needing to have more of a purpose than I felt like I had at the time, but still being available for my kids. So that's kind of how that transition happened.
Got it. Well, I am excited to have you on here. I didn't know that story, so that is great. So many things pop into my head about that, Laurie. And one is, your husband's a physician as well.
Yes.
I've had lunch with him a time or two. Love the guy. So unbelievably intelligent and sharp. And, but you gave up your practice. It was kind of a sacrifice for your family and for time. And not many people are willing to do that. I'm even more impressed. That's a powerful thing. So anyway, but also making that transition to school teaching. I think for some people, they're like, why would you do that?
Right? I know. That's why most people don't even know. I mean, I don't make a thing about this at school.
Absolutely.
Because it's just such an unbelievable story. and I every time I tell it, I think, am I an idiot or what? I mean, so most people at school don't even know.
Right. Well, I that's why pre-podcast I asked, is it okay if I bring this stuff up and talk about it a little bit? Because you're probably one of the most kind of just like humble, kind. I just love you to death. And it's like, you're so soft spoken about things for the most part, and is like, is it okay if we mention this, because I don't want to I don't want to stir up any problems for you or get you fired up, but
Well, I'm
I
not
think it's
on
so cool.
like a witness protection program. Or
Okay,
anything like
good deal. We're safe. So, Lexi, my oldest daughter, had you teach physics, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay? And so she had you in physics class, and she absolutely loved it. And so I love that. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and I think this is important for martial arts school owners or instructors that are out there listening. She would come home and talk about how you did this, and the things you did in class were functional. They were useful. You made things connect to real life for the kids. There are just so many things you do and do well. But one of the things that she came home and told me about, and I want you to kind of tell how and why you did it. First day, you have people go out, or we're having kids go out and do some push-ups. So talk about that. Can you tell me about that?
Okay, that kind of came from an observation that I had, that kids are on so many different levels coming in.
Right.
And that for some of the kids, and I knew that this would be the case, they can go out there, football guys are going to pop up. And I told them, do 5.
Right.
Do 5. They pop those out in 2 seconds like they're no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then some kids really struggle. And I wasn't trying to make fun of those kids.
Sure.
I wanted to show that we're all on different levels, that some of us are really good at things, some of us are not.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you don't give that a shot and that you can improve on those things. So I said, you know what, if you decided that push-ups were important to you, then you could work on them, and in about a week, you could probably do some pretty beastly looking push-ups.
Absolutely.
It's like you have to just decide what's important to you and then go towards that thing. And I said,
Right.
physics is like that. I mean, I was so awful at physics, Chip. Oh my goodness. I was so awful at it. I didn't even take it in high school. I took a little bit in college. I was so awful at it. And so I used that. I said, my push-ups sucked. I mean,
Right.
it was so awful, but I decided I'm going to have to get good at this.
Right.
So that's what I worked at. So that's why we did push-ups on the first day of school.
Very cool. I just remember Lexi coming home and going, she had us go do push-ups. I was like, I love this practical application of physics, right?
That's right.
Pushing the earth away as we move our bodies up and down.
Right.
Very cool. So now that you've made the transition from physician to school teaching, how long have you been teaching?
Probably about 14 years, 15
Wow.
maybe, something like that.
Seems like yesterday when you came in and said, I'm going to be a school teacher.
I think it feels like that to me
I know,
too.
14 years. I can't believe how fast time goes. So in that 14 years, you've had a lot of experience with kids. What do how have you seen kids change over the years of your teaching? Are there, I don't want to lead the conversation too much, but, has their grit changed? Has their, expectations of themselves changed? I mean, kind of speak into that a little bit. What have you seen happen with kids through the years?
I do see changes, and I think it's not so much the kids have changed,
Okay.
is that what they are growing up in, their environments change.
Yes.
I think, I don't know that human beings have changed a lot over the last couple of 100,000 years,
Right.
but what the environments that they grow up in has changed a lot, even since I started teaching. It doesn't seem like that long, but I think we're in a world that is changing at an exponential pace. So I think
Right.
what they are, the kinds of things that they have to deal with that are part of their normal lives are changing
Right.
a lot. So if you just if we just go back even 100 years or so, what those kids, what their expectations were growing
Right.
up, they're starting to say, hey, you know what, I don't want to walk to school. I want to ride in one of those fancy things with the wheels that, and so, so they went from walking somewhere to maybe riding a horse somewhere,
Right.
to riding in a car. And in the next 50 years, we'll probably be teleporting our kids to school. Who knows?
Right.
So those things that they're expected, just normal things that
Right.
they're expected to be able to do, have changed so much, and
right.
are continuing to change on a very rapid basis, that it is definitely affecting how the kids have expectations from themselves.
Got it. How do you see that? And by the way, I wanted to mention bicycles. You forgot to mention bicycles.
Right.
I'm just
Sorry.
kidding. The reason that popped in my head
E-bikes.
is e-bike. No, now it's e-bikes, right?
Right,
Like
right.
We live in this orthopedic world. Orthopedic
Yes.
shoes, chairs. Life is so comfortable. No one knows how to
Right.
do anything hard anymore. And I loosely say that, but it's wild. I brought up bikes because I remember my mom, talking about as a kid riding her bike
Right.
to places, but also riding her horse. 'Cause
Yes.
she was a country kid and she rode a horse. She rode her bike anyway. So
My dad too.
yes, absolutely. So, how are you seeing this change, and I guess their kind of expectations for themselves or the expectations in society around them manifesting itself in the kids' performances? Does that make sense? Like, do they perform different today, or are you having to use different ways to motivate them, to move them forward, things like that?
Definitely.
Okay.
There's things that would motivate kids 10 years ago are
Right.
not motivators now.
Right.
Attention spans have gone from, I used to be able to plop on a 10-minute video and they would sit there and watch it.
Right.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Wow.
3 minutes is about the max.
Wow.
And even that, you're probably going to lose most of them after 2.
Right.
So the attention spans have changed and what they're expected to take on in like as a big global thing almost seems overwhelming.
Right.
Like I can't take on this big thing, but I
Right.
can take on little things.
Little things.
So I have had to adjust that and chunk things a little bit more,
Right.
and they're still getting it done.
Right.
But you just have to be really creative about that. And for an old person such as myself, that is difficult because that is
Right.
that's not the environment I grew up in.
Absolutely. Well, we're having to modify ourselves and learn how they learn so we can teach them better, right?
So we can teach them better.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the key thing is you have to keep your original goals in mind,
Right.
but do it in such a way that today's kids can get there.
Right. I may be thinking wrong here, but I feel like martial arts is so perfect for kids, in my humble opinion, because it has things broken down into bite-sized
Right,
pieces.
right.
You earn your stripes when you work for them, and then you earn your
Right.
belts. Things are sort of small and digestible. It's not just about throw on a white belt and wear it until it turns black anymore.
Correct.
Now there's bites and steps and all of those things kind of built into place. And if you don't, as a martial arts school owner, have systems in place to do that, you need to get them into place to do that.
Yes.
So, how do you think, I hate to bring it up and talk about it, but how do you think, or did you, I know you went through COVID, but that the COVID time frame, shutdown, whatever you want to call it, and it was different for everybody. I know for us at Teamship at the martial arts school, we literally had to close the school for 11 weeks. I remember it being 11 weeks of that 2020 that we were shut down. But I had a friend in DC that closed the school for 15 months. I had a friend in Seattle that was closed for 18 months. It was just crazy in different places. And I had friends, we lost 2 of our affiliates, schools that struggled through that time. But how are you seeing, or do you feel like that exacerbated the problem with attention spans? Or, how do you feel it impacted the kids? Did it change things?
I definitely think it changed things.
Right.
I think kids were left kind of to their own more.
Right.
So part of that is good for a kid who's motivated.
Right.
But if you've got kids that are not as motivated, then it's really hard to expect them to get on a screen and stay on it and do all this. So I think that was a big change. Plus, when we did come back, it was like that time period never happened.
Never happened,
So people picked up that maybe a kid that was in 5th grade when all this started and went through the whole 6th grade year
Right.
of not, basically not doing anything. And then they picked up in 7th grade, there wasn't any backtracking for that.
Right.
So there wasn't any way of going back and let's say, okay, we're just going to start
Kind of
where
fill
we
the
left
gap a
off.
little.
Right. So that gap has persisted over time.
Right.
So that gap is still there.
Right.
As long as the kid is in school. Now, some of the kids have worked their way through there, and some of them just really have not. And I'm not really sure why that is for different kids, but I know for us it was that way for sure.
Right. So you mentioned earlier, I know in the martial arts world, I feel like attention spans have definitely changed in the last 20 years tremendously. We talk in the martial arts industry all the time about disguising repetition, zero downtime, keeping things moving, to keep it active, to keep people on task, stuff like that. But you mentioned a while ago, it's different today motivating kids than it was, even 10 years ago. Can you kind of speak into that just a little bit? Like, what has changed in motivating them? Does that make sense? Or what do you do different now to kind of help motivate them to move forward? I feel like when I was a kid, my mom, we were laughing about this before the podcast, Glenn and I were, and I was just kind of reading through some old notes, and my mom and I would argue in the car, right? So my two older sisters were 5 and 8 years older. So me, my mom and dad, we'd go somewhere on the weekend. Well, my mom and I would argue until my dad would just be like, I'm done, stop, right? And we would kind of laugh because it wasn't heated arguments. It was just debating things, right? And she'd say, making you a great lawyer someday, so she was planting seeds with me then of kind of the big picture and where I wanted to head in life and things like that. So I don't feel like that's done at home as much anymore, and it's kind of changed. So how do you motivate kids differently today than you did maybe 10 years ago?
Well, you have to work into the world. There's no point in denying the fact that cell phones are a big thing, and that social media is a big thing, and you're not going to get anywhere by just saying, well, no to all of that. I mean, the school has been pretty good about taking care of the cell phone issue, but you have to lean into that and work with it. It's kind of like if you're in a car and what are you taught in driver's ed? If you're on the ice and you slam on the brakes and you start skidding, you're supposed to steer into the skid, right? So you kind of have to steer into the skid with this thing too, and work with it and know that, okay, if attention spans are shorter, okay, what do? I take the things and I trim them down from 10 minutes to 3. And then we do several of those. So instead of one big thing, we do several small things. And that
get
works,
one big.
And that's okay. We still get to the same place.
Right. That's cool. I definitely understand. That's what I was saying a while ago in the martial arts class, where you could go, hey, go get 100 of those done. Now we're going to do 5 of these and 5 of these and 5 of these and 5 of these to keep that more manageable for those guys. So do you feel that, this is kind of a weird question. I read something recently that said this is the first generation of kids that are, I don't know what the right verbiage here is like less intelligent than the last generation. Like, do you feel kids are still sharp and have some drive and desire in moving forward, or do you feel like that's shifted some?
I think kids are still every bit as smart. I really do.
I agree with that.
And I don't even know if I believe in the word smart, but I think they have the potential that they've always had. But I think their goals are shifting. It used to be you ask a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And a kid would say, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be a this. Now kids are more directed towards lifestyle.
Right.
So instead of working towards this career, I'm working towards this lifestyle. What do I have to do in some area that I'm interested in to get that lifestyle? I went to a conference last year where a guy had a system where he had this tree. I always thought this was so cool. And he said, okay, if you are in the medical tree, okay, if you're willing to live on this much money, this is the education you need, and blah, blah, blah. If you want to make more money, this is the education you need, and this is what you'd have to go through. If you want to live on this top rung, man, you're going to be in school a while, and you're going to work really hard, and, this is how it's going to be. So kids are more interested in their lifestyle than they are in their career path.
Right.
And that's not all, but that's the shift.
Interesting. I hadn't really thought about it that way. That's really cool to kind of hear and know. So kids, and I could see, I think in my mind, how that's being influenced by social media, and they're constantly looking at that guy has this cool car, that girl has this cool look or dress or shoes or whatever.
Right.
And more than ever now, and it's influencing how do I get to a place where I can have those things. Now when I ask that question, do you feel like kids, I think I have thoughts in my head, but do you feel like they're still willing to put in the discipline and the work to get to those things as much?
I think they're looking for shortcuts. Okay. And a lot of these, and I see this in the classroom all the time, is, first of all, is this for a grade? Is it for a grade? Because if it's not for a grade,
I'm not going to put
any effort in.
Right.
If it is for a grade, I will find a way to get that grade that may not entail me doing the work, but I will get the grade. So I see, and that's a systemic problem. That's not
Right.
the kid's fault. It is, anyway, I'll go down a rabbit hole on that one.
That's all right.
But I think they are every bit as capable.
100%.
I think since it's not, I want to go save the world as much as they're just willing, whatever, just get me to this point.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely. I do. That's very interesting. And I agree with you. I think I had lunch with the base commander out here at Dice. I'm good friends with him now. And we had lunch, this has been years ago, and I went and spoke to all the leadership and taught leadership out at Dice, the Air Force Base here. And at that time, pop culture was very hard on millennials because that was kind of the generation happening. It has been several years ago. And I remember him saying, Chip, he said, you see all the talk about how millennials are lazy, they won't work and all this. And he said, I have a different perspective. He said, if the poo hits the fan, he said, we have our upcoming generation of airmen and young military people are millennials. And he said, we are going to be fine. They're killers. I was like, really? And he said, yeah. And I think we get hung up sometimes as a society on putting people in buckets,
Yes.
Oh, it's that generation. No,
Right.
it's that. And I think I'm pretty sure every generation has done it to every
Yes.
generation prior,
Yes.
right? But I believe that at the core level, kids are just as smart, just as driven, just as. So I'm kind of segueing us to, in martial arts, I'm going to kind of use martial arts, there's expectations.
Yes.
We've talked about that a little bit before. And expectations, there's structure, there's discipline involved, there's all these pieces. I think that as much as ever today, martial arts can be impactful for kids and is impactful for kids because I think more than ever, maybe I'm wrong and I'd love to hear your thoughts, kids have less structure and discipline a lot of times at home. I talk about this on the podcast. People probably get sick of hearing it, but I get sick of seeing kids walking around with screens. You go into a restaurant, there's a family of 5, everybody has a screen. Even the 2-year-old has this big giant pad with the pink, safety case on it. And it's like, what are you doing to your kids, right? And so I think as much as ever, martial arts has the ability. So I'd like to ask your kind of thoughts on how do you feel martial arts can help with some of the issues that you see in kids today?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a structured environment that is challenging,
Right.
and that's not that easy to pull off.
Right.
So in school, these poor kids, every 45 minutes, get up and go to the next class.
Right.
Every 45 minutes, go, 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 go. And so you're maybe letting something maybe kind of sort of sink in before you have to get up and leave.
Right.
So the structure is different in every single class. Every time you get a different teacher, it's
Right.
different. So what I love about martial arts is that after the first couple of classes, you know what it's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not that mystery about it. Like, what are they going to do to me? Are they going to make me do something I don't want to do?
Right.
What's going to happen here?
Mm-hmm.
There's always that same enthusiasm up front, that same lineup. You know who you're going to see. You know where to go.
Right.
You know where to stand.
Right.
You know the basics of it, and that gives you a launch pad.
Right.
Because from there, you're going to be as good as you want to be.
Right.
But you are given the structure to do that within.
Right.
So it's like getting a ladder. You still have to go up the ladder.
Right.
But the ladder provides the steps for you to go if you
love
want
that.
to do that.
Absolutely. And it's clear. Step
Yes.
1, step 2, step
Right.
3 to get to the top of the ladder.
And it's consistent. And to me, that is so, so important, is consistency. In my mind, consistency is fairness. The consistency with the structure is really key for
Right.
a student to improve, because coming in what you're going to do, you're taking all those variables out.
Right.
So when those variables are taken out, a kid is allowed to improve as much as he or she wants to improve, because I know where the steps are. I just need to take them myself. So that consistency really, really helps a kid build confidence.
Absolutely. And that's one of our kind of battle cries is we have posters around the school. Consistency is key. And then one that we have out there too is never be outworked, right? constantly trying to feed into the minds of young people the importance of actually putting in the work to earn what you get, right?
Right.
And so I think that's really powerful. Well, that's cool. So do you think that in today's society, we mentioned kind of as an orthopedic world, you've got comfortable shoes and comfortable chairs and life is comfortable. Do you think that that comfort is replacing resilience, in the world? And how can we get resilience back if so? You know what I mean?
That's a really interesting question because I kind of think about this historically.
Right.
And, the comforts that we have gained through, being human beings, we first learn how to pick stuff or shoot it and eat it or whatever.
Right.
And then we learn how to cultivate it. And now we're growing things and that's easier, right? That's easier. We've got some consistency there.
Right.
And then, all the technological advances that we've made to be able to get to do the things that we can do. So, are we less resilient than maybe humans were 100, 200 years ago? From a physical standpoint, that's probably true.
Maybe, right.
That's probably true. We don't have to do as much physically as we used to. We're also used to things happening so quickly now that it used to be you wrote somebody a letter and they might answer you back in 6 months.
Right.
And now we get mad when people don't text us back in 2 seconds. So it's just such a different world. So
Right.
I think resilience has a different meaning now, and it does have to be more intentional.
Agreed.
I think if you want that resilience in your kids, then there have to be opportunities for them to build that.
Right. So I'm going to ask you a different question from a different angle here. In your classroom, I'm sure that you see all kinds of kids who, have spent their whole life sitting in a chair playing video games, to kids who are athletes. You mentioned earlier, you have football players, different things, athletes, or even kids that are martial artists. So the kids who get that physical rough and tumble play and kind of that physical grit, do you see a difference? What is the difference you see in them and the kids that maybe don't in the classroom? Does that make sense?
I think that rough and tumble stuff, whether it's physical or mental, is really key in helping a kid decide whether he wants to tackle something or not.
Gotcha.
Because tackle can mean a lot of different
Right.
things, right? So I think that ability to rough it up, again, no matter where that comes from, it allows you to, it makes you think, I could do that.
Right.
I could rough and tumble that up. And I know with a little bit more effort, I know I could get better at that.
Right.
I think that does improve resilience no matter what your environment is.
Right. Well, I is a little selfish asking the question because as a martial arts instructor, I'm pretty biased on this. I think rough and tumble play is super important.
Yes.
And because of what we do, we try to make it, and when I say rough and tumble, obviously not so rough people get hurt, but building some grit. One of the things that I say to our people, our instructors all the time is, okay, for instance, this summer, it's summertime. We have to be more fun than a bowl of water, than a swimming pool in order to get people to come to class, right? We can't just grind thousands of kicks at a time with no purpose and direction. We have to do drills that are kind of gamified, that create fun, that are fun to do, because lion cubs, the one of the nature's most powerful killers, didn't learn how to kill by killing. They learned how to kill by playing.
Right.
And but they played rough and tumble, they play rough and tumble, they're biting each other on the ears and slapping each other, and they go to the daddy lion and bite his ear and he piles them across the savannah and they come back. And so I am a little biased that I think that rough and tumble play is an important piece of the balance, because I look at us, we're physical, we're mental, and we're spiritual, and we've got to, keep balancing those areas. Right.
Right.
And so I was just kind of curious what you see on your side, if you feel like the kids that do have a structured rough and tumble outlet of some sort, if you see benefits of that in the classroom.
I see benefits in that they are definitely more willing to take things on.
Take on a challenge.
Right.
I love that.
So I see that quite a bit.
Absolutely. Very cool. So we've already kind of talked about a little bit, but, how do you feel that martial arts can provide the environment of martial arts, how do you feel that can help with the environments that are missing for kids today? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think, recess used to be a big deal when I was in elementary school up through fifth grade.
Right.
And I don't know what they do. Anyway, it's a different world of what they just get to do. And plus, and I hate to do this when I was a kid thing, but because we did have indoor plumbing, but you go home, you ride your bike, and nobody checked on you. Not that was great, but it was just there was a lot more just go out and make things happen than there are now. And what I really like about martial arts, especially when my kids were young, is that, okay, we're going to go on these days of the week, that's when we're going to go. And that was a great opportunity for them to just yell and let loose. And, we did that even in high school. We used that for their PE because we felt like they would get a better experience physically in martial arts than they would at school because they weren't
into mainstream sports as much, right?
So we used martial arts for our mainstream sports, and absolutely, I mean that. And they would be fired up after class, fired up. And then, so that part is actually really amazing. And I think having that as a tool, as a parent, you use all these different things, use the library, use this, but having martial arts available to us at this level was incredible. And we talk about that all the time because it's not just playing around on the mat. It's not a playground. It's a structured environment where they're learning and growing and improving and you in all stages, through elementary school, through middle school, oh my God, middle school, and then high school. And it's just, I'm like, why would everybody not do this? Because it was and all year round. There's no season for it. You can go all year, you can go on the days you want to go. I'm like, there is zero downside to this. So absolutely, I see that.
So I'm going to ask you, this is such a unique opportunity to have you as a physician and a school teacher and a mom who's had kids on the mat. So do you now, years later, and I say years later because your kids haven't trained in a while with us because they've moved on with life and college and careers, and do you see remnants of their martial arts training today still?
Yes, and some of those are more clear than others. But like with my oldest son, he had, he wound up getting his second degree, black belt. And I see him, he picks up things really fast. I mean, he picks up physical stuff. And I think a lot of that was from learning forms and one steps. He also isn't afraid to take something on. And I think that's one of the reasons why at his job, he is so valued because he's the problem solver. If you got something that needs to be fixed, give it to him. He's that kind, and that commands a bigger salary. So I think what leads to more money in your pocket. Because for some kids that speaks. A little bit more concrete example was when I was on vacation with my daughter, who's in her 20s. A couple of years ago, and she suffered a fall during the trip and hit her head. And so when I was checking her out as a doctor mom, I was trying to think of something for her to recite to me, and she just busted out with the history of Taekwondo.
Oh my gosh.
And recited the entire thing, start to finish. I said, "Okay, you're fine.
You're fine."
So I see that with my kids that there's. It's not even small remnants. It's like still part of their DNA.
Still part of their DNA.
Absolutely.
I love that so much. I did not know that either. That's so great. So for those of you that are listening, martial arts school owners, operators, instructors, and anybody else, part of our requirements for our students as they come up is we have character requirements. We have physical requirements. As they move into leadership, we have reading requirements, books on leadership and different things that they have to read. And one of the things that testing for black belt that they have to do is recite this pre-written history of Taekwondo. Because
it's pretty long.
Taekwondo. And it is this long. And they have to stand in front of the crowd after doing hundreds and hundreds of kicks and sparring and all the different things they do. At some point, they recite this thing. So she still remembered that.
Oh, yes.
That's amazing. That is so good. The reason I bring that up and I say it that way is because I encourage you as a martial arts school owner not to lose the balance of the physical, spiritual, mental piece of what we do. In other words, especially, the mental is so important, right?
Yes.
And, I know sometimes parents are like, why does my kid have to memorize this? And it's like, well, it's not about the memorization. And it's not about the content of what they're really saying. It's cool to know some culture and history, right? But it's about their ability to under pressure perform. It's about their ability to get up and speak in front of the crowd. It's about their ability to be confident. And I love hearing you say that your oldest son now is the problem solver.
Right.
I love it because in martial arts classes, we create problems for them to solve.
Right.
And I have to get on to the other day I hadn't been in and taught this particular class in a while. So I popped in and taught a few minutes of class and I asked all the kids a question. I don't even remember what the question was. I said, why da 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 da? And one of the instructors says, because blah, blah, blah. And I was like, why did you answer my question? I'm asking the kids. And then I asked another question and a different instructor did it. After class, I pulled him to the side and I was like, look, I'm not mad at you, but stop answering my questions. I'm asking the kids. I'm trying to challenge them to think and get them to problem solve a little bit, right? So anyway, fun times. Well, I love to hear that. So if you could speak to martial arts school owners and instructors to encourage them, the thought is, I think sometimes we have more influence, and I don't want that to sound egotistical, more than we realize. Like we impact kids for a long haul more than we realize. What kind of encouragement would you give them to keep that up?
I think knowing that some of what you do, you won't be able to see the end product is, and maybe it's important for us to, keep in touch that way because instructor is in a very unique, elite position. You're in front of those kids. They look up to you more than you can possibly imagine.
Right.
More than you can imagine, even if you don't see it on their face.
Right.
They think about you before they come to class. They think about you afterwards. They think about what would you say if you saw them do something.
Right.
They think about all those things, and those characteristics that you help them to develop will maybe a seed that's planted in the dirt that doesn't come out for years.
I love it.
And so you can't think, well, I don't see this right now. You have to look at the big picture. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. So with that ability to influence and being in that unique position comes a heavy responsibility. And so you have to be consistent and on your game. You can't, if you're having a bad day, they can never know it. And so those kind of things are so important. So I would encourage as an instructor to just know that if you're giving your best every day, then that's only going to be positive. There's not any negative to that. It's only a positive. So, and that positive can occur much later on. Maybe it's early, maybe it's late, maybe it's all the way through, but it will be a positive influence.
Absolutely. And just small things, we talk about, we have something called the rules of three. Make eye contact, say their name, and appropriate physical contact 3 times in every class, right? And so we have these rules and systems in place to help us as our organization has grown to not have everyone feel like they're a number. Everyone's a person. Everyone matters on that mat for these reasons right here that you're talking about, because in 10 years, they're still thinking about it sometimes and remembering, that time I had to work really hard for that, but it felt so good when I got it done. I'm gonna get it done now.
Right.
I have some names you will know. I'm not going to mention them on here, but several of our instructors through the years, and I still have it happen, will every now and then reach out to me. I have one in particular. He's out in California. He was teaching at UCLA for a while. He's a first responder. He does a lot of stuff and has become super successful in his own right and world. And he'll reach out to me every now and then and call me and say, hey, I just achieved this level. He just, as a matter of fact, trained a little bit extra and is flying in a helicopter as a fireman now and doing some really amazingly cool things. And he calls me and he said, hey, when things get hard, he said, I still hear your voice in my head. And I'm like, this has been 30 plus years ago that he's trained. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it feels so good. So the point of that is, if you're an instructor listening, don't undervalue your impact. I will also say, and I was sitting across a table one time from a martial arts school owner, and he said, yeah, whenever I come in a bad mood, all the kids know right away Sensei's had a bad day. And I was just blown away by how unintelligent that was. And don't be that, guys.
Right.
Don't be that. You said something so powerful, they can't know if your day's off, right?
Right.
In our world, you probably remember us saying this at times, I hope. Take your shoes off, put your problems in your shoes, come on the mat with a fresh slate and work hard and be more prepared for the problems in your shoes when you leave. But a lot of times they've dissipated by the time you get to them again, because you just got the stress off and feel better.
Right.
Anyway, whole point is, guys, if you own a school, you're an instructor out there, buckle down, pour your heart out, give your best. All the things that you just said are so, so, so important. Dr. Laurie, do you have any last words of wisdom? Did I miss anything that you wanted to share, or you feel like it's important? I know we're a little all over the place. It's my fault. I'm not the best interviewer, but I just am so honored. I can't tell you enough how powerful it is to have you here, and thankful for you. So,
well, I appreciate it. One thing I'll leave you with, something that has always stuck with me, is especially around testing time. And you always said to the kids, I'm never going to put anything in front of you that you can't do. Right. I'm never going to ask you to do something that I don't believe you can do. And that was so powerful to me. And it was for my kids.
Cool.
Like, I'm going to ask you to break this board or this brick. I know you can do that.
Right.
So I'm just having you show that you can do that. And having them believe that you believed in them.
Right.
Was
powerful.
So powerful.
Awesome.
So that's one thing I wanted to make sure I shared with you.
Absolutely. I think sometimes testing for us in the martial arts world, if you're listening and don't understand it, people train for a period of time and they test for their next level. Well, in our organization with our systems, they earn a stripe. They have to get their class time checked off, that they made enough class time to accomplish the next level. So we have time requirements on the mat. And then they have to get what we call a testing ticket and go to an instructor and ask for permission. And a lot of times I think people are like, why do they have to go through all these steps? Well, it's checks and balances, making sure you know your stuff, you're prepared. Why do they have to ask? Because I want young people to have the confidence to walk up to an adult and ask. Have a conversation with an adult, right?
Right.
And so those things matter tremendously. But in my head, testing is a bit of a misnomer, and I've said this for years. I don't think that's the right name. Really, your testing is just a display of what you've already learned and earned and done. And so part of where that comment would come from is, and it was true, sometimes we as instructors know more what you can do better than you know. We're just trying to help you to see it and get it pulled out. Like you're full of gifts. We're just trying to help you to bring them out and polish them and hone them a little bit. So that's great. I appreciate you sharing that, because I didn't realize until then how important that was to, it just re-edifies for me the importance of that. So good stuff. Well, thank you so much for being on today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. You mentioned being a little nervous earlier. Did you do okay? Did we do okay here?
You made me less nervous.
That's because I'm a goof. All right, guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. Like it, love it, share it, shoot us a message, let us know what, she's got me confused now, what you would like to hear about. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you. Thank you for tuning into the Team Chip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget, subscribe, share, and or leave a review, because we need you. We appreciate you so much. And without you, we can't make this happen. Remember, consistency is the key to success. So go out there and never be outworked.